Hello and welcome to another sausage stiffening episode of TechSpert Weekly, and if you're a massive Oppo fan then hey, great news! They've been super prolific this week, launching all kinds of bendy blowers and future shit. And if you don't like Oppo, well, this week's episode is going to be about as much fun as having all of your toenails yanked out one by one, and then sprinkled over a Brussels sprout bap which you're then forced at gunpoint to eat. And just as you choke down that final rancid mouthful, you jerk awake to discover that yes, it was all a hideous nightmare, but you actually fell asleep during a Jim's Corden studio recording, and there's still 3.5 hours of it to go. So anyway, let's do a show. TechSpert Weekly! Now first up, Wednesday was Oppo's INNO Day, where the Chinese giant revealed a couple of funky bits of future tech, including the Marasilicon Y chipset that will come stuffed inside of 2023 flagships like the Find X6 Pro. Unlike the Marasilicon X, which is an image processor used by Oppo's smartphone cameras, the Marasilicon Y is focused instead on audio. Time to put our spod hat on for the geek chat. The Marasilicon Y supports a fresh ultra-resolution lossless codec which allows for 192 kHz 24-bit audio streaming over Bluetooth to supported wireless speakers or headphones. And if that all made about as much sense as a drunk Glaswegian, well, that level of lossless streaming would be a significant step up from what the likes of aptX HD and LDAC have made possible. If it doesn't turn out to be a massive pile of chin stroke and toss, of course. And Oppo also celebrated its new O-Health H1 Gizmo, a 6-in-1 family health monitor that looks suspiciously like a suppository. But as far as I can tell, it doesn't go anywhere near your bumhole. The O-Health H1 combines ECG, SpO2, heart rate and body temperature monitoring into a single shiny pebble. And unlike many modern wearables, you also get a stethoscope feature. At night you can even snuggle up with the clever wee egg. Just bung it on your pillow and it will monitor, in Oppo's own words, subtle vibrations. Just don't slip it up your jacksie, alright? It's not that kind of egg. And then there was just about enough time for the usual AR glasses shenanigans which can transcribe and translate speech in real time. Again, handy for whenever you take a trip to Glasgow. And then, clearly not satisfied with all of that shiny tech, Oppo was back at it again just a day later, launching a pair of fresh foldable phones. For now, the regular Oppo Find N2 is only launching in China, same as last year's Find N, which is annoying because, according to Oppo at least, it's an engineering marvel. Good bit of self-trumpet puffing there, guys. At 233 grams, the Find N2 is pretty light for a foldable, complete with a stiffy stirring vegan leather finish and Oppo's second generation Flexion Hinge. Flexion Hinge? That is a super fun thing to say, just don't say it too fast in public or you might get arrested. Anyway, that Flexion Hinge is thinner and lighter and can now be folded and unfolded over 400,000 times, so it is a proper tough bugger too. Other improvements include the front display, which has smaller bezels now, supports 120Hz refresh and is brighter to boot. Meanwhile, that internal 7.1-inch screen also hits 120Hz, unlike the recent Magic VS, with a fresh anti-reflective coating for outdoors use. And the battery capacity has massively grown in size for the Find N2 versus last year's Find N, from 4,500 mAh to 4,520. At least the wireless charging has been upgraded to 67 watts, but unfortunately the Find N2 is also powered by Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 rather than the super fresh 8 Gen 2, so it shouldn't be any more powerful than a lot of recent foldable rivals. Last up, you've got a triple camera setup crafted in collaboration with Hasselblad, and this comprises a 50 megapixel main IMX890 sensor, which only recently launched, plus an IMX581 ultra-wide angle snapper and a 32 megapixel IMX709 telephoto shooter with 2x optical zoom. Stellar stuff. But more intriguing by far is the Oppo Find N2 Flip, which is Oppo's take on Samsung's Z Flip 4 and the Motorola RAZR reboot. And unlike the regular Oppo Find N2, the Find N2 Flip will apparently get a global launch in 2023, so you should be able to bag one of your very own quite easily, as long as you're absolutely loaded. The Find N2 Flip once again uses Oppo's second gen Flexion Hinge. That's Flexion Hinge. It's a more compact and lightweight 190 gram blower, but you still get a decent sized 3.26 inch cover screen, and meanwhile the internal display has nearly no crease, allegedly. The Find N2 Flip is powered by an exclusive version of the Mediatek Dimensity 9000 Plus, as found in beefy phones like the Xiaomi 12 Pro and the ROG Phone 6D, but in this phone it's been optimised for a smaller, more energy efficient form factor. And Oppo has still somehow found space in this bendy bugger for a 4,300 mAh capacity battery, which is mighty impressive stuff all round, so fingers crossed for a global launch of this bad boy really soon. Now, in shockingly non-Oppo related news, last weekend Xiaomi finally launched its latest flagship smartphones, the Xiaomi 13 series, over in China. But as they'd pretty much already fully leaked, this bit of news was about as arousing as a naked Jacob Rees-Mogg, squatting over a soggy mound of rancid month-old Cornish pasties while singing Kumbaya. No idea why that particular image was the first thing that leapt into my brain. I honestly think there might be something seriously wrong with me. Hopefully nothing half a bottle of whiskey mixed with a generous dollop of Swarfiga consort out though. If you want some proper butt-clenchingly premium tech, well, the Xiaomi 13 Pro model is the one for you, with that Sony IMX989 camera sensor and Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset, which are apparently optimised so they work together beautifully, much like beer and pork scratchings, or James Corden's face and a huge f***-off hammer. Of course, the Pro is a 6.73-inch behemoth, while the regular Xiaomi 13 is kind of enticingly compact at just 6.36 inches. That mini model sports the same 8 Gen 2 chipset, a Sony IMX800 primary camera sensor, and a smaller battery at 4,500 mAh versus 4,820, although both Xiaomi blowers support wireless charging. Anyway, thanks to all the leaks and everything, I fully covered the Xiaomi 13 smartphones in a Techspert Weekly about 2-3 weeks ago, an episode which seemed pretty shit at the time, but honestly, compared with this heap of arse, possibly deserved a Pulitzer. So yeah, maybe go watch that instead. Now, Xiaomi also launched its latest smartwatch though, the Watch S2, in both 42 and 46mm sizes, with a jolly wee rainbow of colours to fill your soul with joy. Both versions are constructed from premium materials with a sapphire glass option, and they boast up to 12 days of battery life apparently, plus the usual range of fitness features in case you're sick of your arse dragging along the floor behind you. Apparently it can even measure your bone salt content, which is either some kind of bizarre translation error or yet another metric I never knew I needed to worry about. I mean, seriously, I don't give a flying toss about SpO2 levels or any of that jazz. All I need is my watch to let me know when I'm so drunk that going anywhere near social media would be a terrible idea. That would make me very happy indeed. But anyway, Christ, that's enough hot tech chat for basically the whole of December. Time to grab our ankles and brace for a hot beefy injection of viewer comments. Viewer comments. Alrighty then, this week the lucky soul kicking us off is Daniel Riggs. Hi Daniel, hope you're doing well sir, who says, very entertaining and pleasant to view. I've got to say, the sarcasm meter absolutely imploded with that one, Daniel. Ibrahim says, I love your cat. And it's Danny Cantu says, love the cats hanging out. There are actually two of the buggers, we've got two of them, but they're brothers, so they're almost identical. They're kind of tough to tell apart. The only real way to identify them is that one has got a comedy wonky mustache. This is Hobbs with the comedy mustache right here. You're a big fluffy lovable bugger, aren't you, buddy? Yeah. Anyway, you gonna come join us for the rest of the episodes? Oh, cat butt right in the face, always pleasant. Next up, Sam says, also hanging watching this, if that makes you feel any better. Jed Bullet says, Uncle Spurt, I feel your pain this morning. I was forced into 3 Christmas dinners with clients and colleagues this week, and booze was the only way to get through them. Yeah, I was not in a good state at all this time last week, that's for damn sure. But the good news is, between the 2 inches of snow and the train strikes and everything else going on in this bloody country, it's impossible to get anywhere in the UK at the moment, so at least that eliminates the temptation to do 3 Christmas drinking events in one day again. Although actually, I haven't even had an official Techspert Christmas party yet, so that might be one for next week maybe. Good excuse to get in a crate of Malibu and a KFC bargain bucket. I've also got David asking, what is my favourite hangover cure? Well, the one that seems to work the best is just getting drunk again, but then you're kind of trapped in this vicious and increasingly cost-inefficient cycle. Staying in bed all day and refusing to even open your eyes, that's a pretty good one too, but not really particularly practical if you have a job or a family, for instance. 2 obstacles that I found often prevent you from doing what you actually want to do in life. So last week we had ourselves a little bit of a tour of the Nothing store, which just opened up here in London, and to be honest, it's less of a store, more of a kind of a bizarre sensory experience that just happened to have a machine that fed me espresso martinis on demand, hence is my new favourite hangout spot. Seriously, if anyone's thinking of any last minute gift ideas for me, just one of those that can pump that directly into my veins, that would be perfect. But anyhow, on the subject of the Nothing store, Ben Knight says, there's something kind of dark yet also pretentious about entering a building called Nothing just to experience a nightclub that's smaller than your first flat, a phone with some pretty lights on the back and some basic accessories to go with the phone. You know, one of those floors on the Nothing store is probably about the same size as my very first studio flat. Lovely little place down in Balham. Wasn't enough space to swing a dead cat, maybe a dead hamster at best. I remember it was so friggin' tiny that the bed actually folded up into the wall so you could get to the toilet to take a piss. Rain says, pretty funny to see a DJ inside the Nothing store. Yeah, she looks so f***ing bored the entire time as well. Although to be fair, her banging library of tunes wasn't exactly getting much love from the crowd in there, who were too busy just snapping pictures of all the random shit plastered all across the walls. She could have literally chucked on the Thomas the Tank Engine theme tune and no one would have batted a f***ing eyelid. Although also, I wouldn't be surprised if that's what kids actually listen to in nightclubs these days in some sort of ironic twist. I mean, all the music I used to listen to in nightclubs back in the 90s seems to be kids' disco music these days. And next up, Timolay says, have you seen the Techno Phantom X2 Pro? It has a mechanical 2.5 times retractable zoom lens. I did see that, and I do like that pop-out lens there. I do wonder if that'll be a way of getting around the enormous jutting camera bumps that we have on some smartphones these days. Although the cynical part of me also wonders, did they just chuck it on there to grab headlines and attention? Because otherwise, the phone is a basic bog standard upper mid-ranger. Theodore Teckers says, what's that drink that Chris made? I need that stuffed in my veins. Yeah, quite a few people have proven of my beverage of choice in the previous episodes. I think technically it's just called a Kentucky coffee or something like that. It's just basically black coffee and bourbon swished together. It's the only kind of cocktail I can make without f***ing up. Flashart says, did you just mention Quick Save? My mum used to drag me round one every Saturday morning and made me walk miles while carrying my own body weight in shopping, using carrier bags that shredded my hands like cheese graters. Yes, I remember those bags. They often disintegrated before you even made it as far as the bus stop as well. And the shopping baskets, the Quick Save shopping baskets with the little metal sticky out bits that injected tetanus straight into your thigh. But you know, at least they had cheap meat. It's all about the cheap meat. Probably the recycled remains of any customers who died before they reached the checkout. Next up, the uninvited guest says, just to let you know, I've ordered an early Christmas present for myself. I'm getting rid of my Samsung A52s 5G, still a decent little mid-range phone, that one, because they didn't bollocks it up by putting an Exynos in it. And getting a Google Pixel 7 after watching your review. Great choice there, hope you enjoyed. It's definitely an upgrade, at the very least. Speaking of Samsung, I've actually gone back to this absolute behemoth here, the Galaxy S22 Ultra. And my SIM slapped back in there because I'm actually in between reviews for the first time seemingly all frickin' year. I do kind of wish I'd gone back to the Pixel 7 though, because it's just so much more compact and easy to use. Like this thing used one-handed. I would actually rather watch an entire episode of Mrs. Brown's Boys. Next up, Unique Rock says, I think most of our phones are sold at a higher price compared with other countries, but we can have a litre of beer for about $2, which is nice. F me, mate, where do you live? And are there any houses going cheap on your street? And really better make this the last one of the week because we're massively out of time. Next up, Nika, sorry if I've completely bollocks the pronunciation, says, I came for the tech news but subbed for the banter. You've grown on me like a wart. And particularly lovable and handsome wart, right? Anyway, a massive thank you to everyone who commented last week. So many more to go through. I will try and burn my way through all of those off camera to have a good old chuckle. Please do slam your comments down below. We'll try and get through as many of those as possible next week. And speaking of next week,
this is about next week.
Well, even though it's motherfucking Christmas next week, I've still got another tech launch to go, which I'm heavily embargoed on, so I can't say anything about it. It's not a new phone or anything. It's nothing particularly massively thrilling, but stay tuned for that. And then on Friday, it's the final Techspert Weekly of the year of 2022. And yeah, it, I'm going to have my Techspert office party, and you're all invited. By you're all invited, I mean you can watch it on YouTube. Please don't turn up at my house. And hopefully a few other festive surprises sprinkled throughout as well, if I don't just get pass out drunk and then wake up at some point in 2023. So if you watched it this far and you still haven't poked subscribe and ding that notifications bell, well, please do that and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful weekend, everyone. Love you.